Yo, what's up, people? Hope you guys are having a great one, and welcome to the second healer job guide about white mages. And if you're looking for general healing gameplay tips and guidance, head over to my video about called Final Fantasy XIV 4.0 In-Depth Healing Guide. That will have all of that. So things such as additional skills, traits, your general healer gameplay will not be touched on covered in this video, as these are the job specific guides. You can find the video if you click on the small eye on the right upper corner of the video. So you'll find the video that I'm talking about. So getting into white mages, it is honestly the most well-rounded healer of all the three, and possibly the strongest one as well, because the kit really has everything in it. And why I say possibly is because 2 days ago, patch 4.1 hit, bringing some astrologian changes and buffs, and those buffs could make astrologians compete with white mages, but it's way too early to tell. Like I said, 2 days ago, patch dropped, so we haven't got a lot of testing into the class, me specifically anyway. Also, white mages are the most beginner-friendly healer class, exactly because it's versatile, solid kit, but yet it is also easy to use. So there's that. With that out of the way, let's get straight into your skills. So let's start off with the first skill that you have. So Stone 3 is your only DPS skill that also has a secondary effect of 50% heavy on the target for 3 seconds. You know, it's a great tool to help your team chase down kills, or just gets you some breathing room for the people that are chasing you or your team members. Then your basic heals, Cure 1 and Cure 2. Basically the same. One is an Astrologian Benefit 1 and Benefit 2. You know, your cheap small heal, expensive big heal, and are used in much the same way as outside of burst windows. In most situations, you're using Cure 1, and then if you really need that big heal, you use Cure 2 for those burst windows and, you know, otherwise big hits. They also grant 1 lily on cast, and those lilies can be used to decrease certain of your skills cooldowns, but we'll get into the lilies in more detail later on. Regen is your basic hot tick ability. It lasts for 15 seconds, and it's great for, you know, keeping multiple people topped off at the same time, or just have some extra background healing on top of your normal heals when you're trying to keep one person alive. Protect is one of your defensive cooldowns that decreases your target's damage taken by 20% for 10 seconds. A pretty big defensive cooldown at that, and very straightforward to use. You know, use it to decrease heavy incoming damage, or when you're about to get CC'd, you know, you slap it on a person to give them sort of more time to live before you get out of the CC. Is also affected by lilies. Divine Benison is your second defensive cooldown, and it gives your target a 25% of their max health shield. And it is also used in much in the same ways as Protect is, but you can also spot block big hits such as, you know, Fire Force, Nostrons, etc. It might be a bit harder to use for that purpose though, because shields work in a way that it takes a second or two for the shield to actually register and start blocking damage. That's also something you should keep in mind when you're using the skill. Do not rely on it as a last sort of measure, because your target might die in between the time that they receive the shield and the shield gets registered, in the time that they're still taking damage before the shield starts blocking. Slightly annoying, but you know, it is what it is. And this skill is also affected by lilies. Benediction works exactly the same way as in PvP. It restores to 100% of your target's HP. Your emergency heal basically, or you can use it tactically as well to intentionally bait the enemies into attacking one person, letting them drop low while healing someone else, and then pop that one person back to full health from like 1k or something. Should only be used in that way though if you literally have nothing else to keep your team alive and you want to conserve MP or something like that. And it also takes a second or two to register, so you should also factor that in so you don't use it too late and end up wasting it. It is also affected by lilies. Then Assize is a decent AoE heal that also has a secondary effect of giving you 2.5k MP. And obviously, you know, try and hit as many people with it as you possibly can, but as the main use of the ability is to regain more MP, you know, it's fine if you only hit yourself or one more party member. That's perfectly fine. Try and pump as much lilies into this skill as humanly possible to stay healthy with MP. And it is also affected by lilies at that. Fluid Aura is a great and versatile skill and a keep away tool that knocks people back from next to you for 10 yalms is the distance, and it binds the targets as well for 3 seconds. And you use it to keep people off of you or your team members, stop the annoying tank from CCing you, interrupt key abilities such as, you know, Fire Force spams, reposition the opposing healer to a bad spot, such as line of sight in their own team or into your team, something like that, and more. There's way more things you can use it for, so it has a lot of uses. If you slap focus target on the opposing melee as well, you can use a simple macro that I will throw on the screen to get them quickly off you with one skill press and without even targeting them. So there's that as well. And then we get into your lilies, and basically this is your class mechanic, and with each cast of your cure 1 or cure 2, I need to keep in mind that in combat and when it restores HP, it restores 1 lily out of maximum of 3 that you can stack up, and those lilies can be used to reduce the cooldown of the 4 abilities that I just talked about: Protect, Divine Benediction, and Assize. And 1 lily grants 10% cooldown reduction, 2 is 25, and 3 is 50%. So you always want to be aiming for, obviously, you know, aiming for 3 lilies for every single one of your skill uses to get that juicy 50% cooldown reduction, but you might not always be able to do that. So do keep in mind that you also want to sit on the skills to always use 3 lilies when you really need to be using, for example, a shield on a person. So keep that in mind. So your general gameplay and what you should be focusing on as a white mage is your game plan really revolves around keeping up regions for the most of your party for pretty much the entire match. What this allows you to do is keep people topped off for pretty easily, even if they're taking dot damage or the enemy tank is focusing and attacking you, CCing you or whatever. And for that purpose as well, region on yourself is mostly enough to keep you up in health, so you don't need to be really healing like 2 targets at the same time. And it is also going to give you those extra background hot ticks for the single target healing when the enemy team is going for 1 target and you're healing them with your normal heals. And you should always be aiming for using the 3 lilies for every single one of your four abilities that I was talking about earlier. But it is also very key to like notice and recognize and to, you know, when to use the abilities, even if you don't have 3 lilies, when you really need to use them. This helps, like, the game plan of always aiming for 3 lilies is going to help you with MP efficiency, since you can use Assize more often, and in general just helps you keep your team alive more efficiently when you have your skills up way more often than if you were to use them without lilies or whatever. And when you can get away with, and knowing there's a lot, when you know there's not a lot of incoming damage, you should always be sort of like milking the lily system with using Cure, because it heals for less and it's cheaper to use. And as an example, for let's say that the enemy team has just retreated after a kill or whatever, your team is kind of like low in health. What you should be aiming for is using Cures first to milk 3 lilies easily, instead of topping them off with like 1 Cure 2 cast and you get like 1 lily prepped for the next engagement. So with Cure, you can easily prep 3 lilies in advance before the next engagement. There's also sort of like a very loose priority list when it comes to pumping, you know, which skill you pump the lilies into most. And first comes Divine Benison, because if you always burn 3 lilies into it, you will have a potent shield on your targets every 10 seconds, which is pretty huge. Second comes Protect, because having that 20% damage decrease up as much as possible on your party members is really going to help you keep them alive. And if you pump 3 lilies into it every single time, which is of course an ideal situation, which won't happen a lot, you will have a 10-second downtime with Protect, because with 3 lilies you'll have a 20-second cooldown. It lasts for 10 seconds, so 10 seconds downtime. A size comes third because even though MP is great, it already restores such a big amount of it that it's not the end of the world if you don't manage to get 3 lilies for it every single time. 1 or 2 is fine. You'll live with it. And you'll most likely have Muse to back on anyway. So you'll not just be relying on a size only. And last is Benediction. And really it's only because the cooldown is so long to begin with. And it's an emergency heal in a way. And you can't always... because of it, you can't always control when you want to use it, and having up 3 lilies for it every single time is not realistic. But still, like, even though this is sort of like a list, you still need to remember that this is a very loose list. And the priorities always shift in a match depending on what's on cooldown and what is not, and what you have available and what you don't. So, for example, you might not want to wait that 12 or 10 second cooldown remaining on Protect if you can use the 3 lilies to burn it on the size now, and you can get 3 lilies more in that 10 seconds, you know. And about Fluid Aura as well, remember that it has both defensive and offensive uses. So use it to knock the opposing healer out of the position, or just behind the wall where they can't heal a team from, or get those annoying melees and tanks off of you. As a tip for using it as well, if someone is sticking to you and you want to knock them to a specific direction, what you want to be doing is the following. You first take a couple steps to the direction you want to knock them to. You wait if they follow you. If they do, you walk back towards them, basically the opposite way towards them, and use Fluid Aura when they're on top of you. What happens is the server basically registers them walking past you, and by the time you Fluid Aura hits them, it basically knocks them to that direction that you came from and you originally wanted them to fly to. So as a general gameplay tip to how to use it most effectively, you'll most likely see me do that in the background footage a lot, so you can get an idea on how to do that. So lastly, kind of like my overall thoughts on White Mages, it really does have the most solid kit of all the 3 healers. It's also the most beginner friendly out of all the 3 healers because of its simplicity in the kit. But at the same time, the kit is very strong and versatile with all the different tools you have available to you. And if you're new to healing, I do really recommend that you start out with White Mage, as it is the most easy to use basically. And also, like, Fluid Aura is one of the best healer tools that are in the game because of the many different ways you can use it and utilize it. So that is it for the White Mage guide, and I hope you guys found it useful. If you did, please do share it around, leave a like, comment on your thoughts, questions, whatever, your own White Mage tips, healing tips, all that good stuff. And subscribe for more content. Scholar Guide is up next on the guides, and that is going to be the last one finishing up the Healer Guide series, and, you know, look forward to that. Thanks guys for watching, and have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, people.